What is going on, everybody? This is NYGJeffet 3285, and I'm just here to give everybody a quick little match prediction of the 6 matches that are going to be happening tomorrow at Clash at the Castle, 1 p.m. at Wales, for the WWE main roster. Now, right now, we've had a nice little build-up to Clash at the Castle, and there's a total of 6 matches that are going to be happening at this pay-per-view tomorrow at 1 p.m. in Wales. We have the WWE Universal Championship that's going to be contested between Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. We have Liv Morgan taking on Shayna Baszler for the Smackdown Women's Championship. We have a 6-woman tag going on between Bianca Bel-Air, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka taking on the control of Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky. We have Matt Riddle taking on Seth freaking Rollins. We have Gunther versus Sheamus for the WWE Intercontinental Championship, as well as we have Edge and Rey Mysterio taking on Damian Priest and Finn Balor of the Judgment Day. Now I'll go into this order from the top of the card from the bottom of the card to the top. First, starting with Edge and Rey Mysterio versus the Judgment Day. Now, the entire storyline that's been teased this entire time between Edge, Rey Mysterio, and the Judgment Day, a lot of it had to do with the whole story and dynamic with Dominic Mysterio. What is going on with Dominic Mysterio? Is he somebody that looks like he's about to turn, as there's been little seeds that have been planted on the past few weeks of Monday Night Raw about a possible turn of Dominic Mysterio aligning himself with the Judgment Day? And obviously, that really took another higher gauge on this past Monday Night Raw, where Rey Mysterio pretty much told Dominic in a backstage interview, or backstage segment, saying that he was going to be teaming up with Edge because he feels like Dominic, it's just not the best place for him to be right now. He'd rather keep him safe and keep him on the sidelines. You could tell Dominic was a little bit agitated by that. Obviously, Finn Balor, Damian Priest, as well as Rhea Ripley are trying to establish themselves as the most dominant faction right now in the WWE, and especially on Raw. And right now, Finn Balor and Damian Priest have definitely been showing that, as they've been picking up some very solid wins in a couple of matchups, including this past Monday when Finn Balor and Damian Priest defeated AJ Styles and Dolph Ziggler in the first match of Monday Night Raw, due to a little bit of nefarious methods caused by Rhea Ripley, as well as the rest of the Judgment Day. Now, who I think is going to definitely get the win on this, it makes too much sense the Judgment Day's got to win this. If you want to try to keep the Judgment Day looking strong, which they have been, it makes too much sense to have the Judgment Day go over Rey Mysterio and Edge. Edge and Mysterio don't need the win, but the key storyline right now is, will Dominic Mysterio make the turn and align himself with the Judgment Day this coming Saturday? And I believe that is exactly what's going to happen. I think that eventually, either by accident or because Dominic Mysterio will eventually completely turn to the dark side, I believe that in some way Dominic Mysterio will cost his father and Edge the matchup, as there's been a little bit of backstage tension going on as well between Edge and Dominic in recent weeks. So maybe this could happen where Dominic inadvertently costs Edge the match, maybe inadvertently when he's trying to hit the Judgment Day members, he by accidentally gets Edge or socks Edge in the face, hits him, causing Edge to get pinned by Balor or Priest, which has cost them the match eventually, and that could slowly continue the turn of Dominic Mysterio aligning himself with the Judgment Day. But I think the turn will definitely happen, and I really believe it has to do with a lot to do with the recent backstage segment and the fact that Dominic feels like he's not getting respected by his father and by Edge, and he's being thrown to the side right now. So I really believe that the Judgment Day is going to get the win in this match, and it's going to be because Dominic Mysterio is going to turn his back on his father and Edge and align himself with Ripley, Priest, Balor, and the Judgment Day. I'm going to actually get to the 6-woman match next. Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka taking on Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky. Now, we all saw what happened on Monday Night Raw this past Monday. Dakota Kai and Io Sky were in the WWE Women's Tag Team Tournament Final against Aaliyah and Raquel Rodriguez. And we saw what happened. Aaliyah and Raquel ended up winning the tag team championships. By hook or by crook, there's fans out there saying, including myself, that we all thought that Dakota Kai was not the legal woman in that match and was actually Io Sky, and that Aaliyah pretty much pinned the wrong woman, and that tag team match was a farce. But getting back to this whole thing, Bianca, Bliss, and Asuka have been pretty much there as the three people that are trying to stop what has now turned out to be the biggest faction right now in terms of the women's wrestlers in the WWE, being Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky, since they all returned back at SummerSlam last month. And they've been dominating right now the show. Bianca, obviously, the Raw Women's Champion. And me, like a bunch of other people that have talked about this, we're happy that they're not true at doing the Bayley versus Bianca Bel-Air Raw Women's Championship match immediately. Hold it off, let it build up a little bit more, and then get to the eventual match maybe a little bit later down this year. But in terms of what the results are going to be happening in this match, it makes no sense right now if Bayley, Dakota, and Io don't come out on top. They're still the new faction. Bayley's still getting herself back into in-ring shape, as this will only be her second match since she's been back on WWE television since she tore her ACL. Bliss, Bel-Air, and Asuka do not need the win. Obviously, Bel-Air will not take the pin. The thing that makes the most sense in this match is that you would have Bayley pin Bliss, because out of the three people on that side, with Bliss, Bel-Air, and Asuka, Bliss right now feels like the weakest one of that team. She feels the one that's like a little bit lost in terms of everything. You don't want to have Bel-Air get pinned, and you don't even really want to have Asuka get pinned. Bliss can afford the loss. She's more established. She's been there a longer time. She's been multiple-time women's champion, Money in the Bank winner, yada yada. She's been it all. She can afford to take a loss. Let Bayley get the win. Give the Control some more momentum. That's exactly what should happen. The Control should be the ones. Damage Control should get the win in this matchup. Now I'm going to head to the SmackDown Women's Championship, and I think this should be a very easy one. I'm going to make this one short and sweet. Liv Morgan right now, we all praise her. Underdog story. Everybody's behind her. Cookie cutter women's wrestler. Lovable babyface. The underdog. Ever since that match against Ronda Rousey at SummerSlam, and the fact that she tapped out, and everything that happened, that Ronda Rousey ended up not getting the win and she was pinned without seeing the tap out, the crowd has been totally against Liv Morgan. The crowd has been against her. They've been booing her because of the match with Ronda Rousey, and then Shayna Baszler ended up winning a Fatal 5 Women's #1 Contenders match, in a gauntlet match actually, and she is starting to look like she was back in NXT when she was the Queen of Space, the former 2-time NXT Women's Champion. And obviously with Liv Morgan also selling her arm injury from Ronda Rousey, and the fact that Shayna Baszler has pretty much been coming back like an absolute monster since she's been back on television, there's no reason why this match should not be going as followed. I'm going to make it quick. Shayna Baszler should absolutely destroy Liv Morgan and have an easy 3 or 4 minute win and become the SmackDown Women's Champion. It's not going to go over well if Shayna Baszler does not absolutely dismantle Liv Morgan in that match, especially with Morgan being hurt and the way she's being booked. Baszler should just go in there, tear her apart limb by limb, and just walk away with that match as the new SmackDown Women's Champion. That's the only way it makes sense. If Liv Morgan gets another one of those fluke wins, similar to what she had against Ronda, the crowd is going to hate it. She's going to get more she's going to get more heat against her. And maybe this is what Triple H wants. Maybe he wants to get more heel heat against Liv Morgan for eventual turn. I just don't understand it. I hope it doesn't happen. But I would not be surprised if maybe they want to go with that direction. Maybe to eventually turn Liv Morgan heel. But the most logical thing that needs to happen is Shayna Baszler needs to win. She needs to win convincingly over Liv Morgan and become the new SmackDown Women's Champion. Now I'm going to get to this matchup, which I think is going to be one of the most hard-hitting matchups in the entire year when it comes to WWE. And that, of course, is Gunther with Ludwig Kaiser by his side, taking on Sheamus with the Brawling Brutes, Ridge Holland, and Butch, a.k.a. Pete Dunne. We all know the type of physical, pounding, fighting style that Gunther has, and obviously similar to that with Sheamus. When Gunther eventually came up to the main roster, and many of other people have said this, one of the people that a lot of people have been having dream match scenarios with for Gunther, aka Walter, is Sheamus. Because the similar styles they have, because of the physical styles they have, that they will beat the living hell out of each other. And that's exactly what we're probably going to get. And probably one of the best old school, ground and pound, physical, brawling style Intercontinental Championship matches on Saturday. And I think that this is going to be awesome. I expect these two to have a 10 to 15 match of just destroying each other. We'll see if Kaiser, Ridge Holland, and Butch have any type of involvement in this. But in reality, I just want to see Gunther and Sheamus beat the living hell out of each other because it's going to be friggin' awesome to watch. And I cannot wait to see it. And overall, I think this is going to be a fun match to watch. But I'm actually going to give the victory to Sheamus because the story is being told. Sheamus has pretty much done it all in the WWE. Money in the Bank winner, Royal Rumble winner, multiple time WWE and Universal World Champion, Universal Champion, United States Champion, Tag Team Champion. The only thing he has not done is become the Intercontinental Champion. And we all know Gunther has been booked like an absolute monster right now. We maybe think Gunther is going to continue to be the champion going forward. But I think because of the fact it's going to be in the UK, right by Sheamus' home in Ireland, Sheamus is going to get a major hometown welcome, as will Gunther, but Sheamus especially. Why not make the title change here? And maybe, with what I'm going to get to towards the World Heavyweight Championship match, this is where you make the title change and you can elevate Gunther to the next level and have Sheamus run as the Intercontinental Champion and maybe start other feuds against guys like Ricochet, maybe a Madcap Moss, maybe a couple of Shinsuke Nakamura, some other people in the Intercontinental title picture for the mid-card. But I'm actually going with Sheamus to pull out the victory in this match. Now I'm going to get to probably the most exciting match to me, not only of this show, Clash at the Castle. Shout out to my guy DJ Storms. Him and I did a show last night. We talked about this, and I even made out the bold prediction. I think this is going to be the best match of the entire wrestling weekend of Clash at the Castle, All Out, and Worlds Collide. And that, of course, is Matt Riddle and Seth Rollins, who their feud took an absolute 10-time upheaval. It went up 10 times more after what happened on this past Monday Night Raw, with the involvement happening in a backstage brawl that happened outside of the arena in Pittsburgh, to the sit-down interview, which ended up getting very personal between the two of them. And these guys have documented real-life heat between one another because of comments by Matt Riddle made about Seth Rollins' wife, Becky Lynch. And that obviously rubbed Seth Rollins very wrong. It rubbed him the wrong way in that whole scenario. And we all know that Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle do not like each other. And even at the end of this segment, that happened, a sit-down interview with Corey Graves. After Corey Graves left, and it looked like the segment was going to be over, Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle took this rivalry to the next level. When Seth Rollins pretty much told Matt Riddle about the fact that he doesn't have a family anymore, about his wife divorced him and took the kids, and they didn't want to be around his bitch ass anymore. And Matt Riddle's just, Matt Riddle's normal goofy demeanor, silly demeanor he had before, snapped. And he turned right into like a stone-faced killer. Like he just wanted to take Seth Rollins, and like he said, I want to beat the F up out of you. He wants to take him and he wants to rip him to shreds. And I'm expecting these two to not only have a phenomenal wrestling match, I'm expecting these two to tear the living hell out of each other because of now how personal this rivalry has become and because of how much animosity these two have for one another. And I'm expecting these two to have a phenomenal 15 to 20 minute match. I think this is going to steal the show at Clash at the Castle. And I cannot wait. And I'm actually very happy they did not do the match at SummerSlam. If this was Vince McMahon in charge of the WWE at that time, they would have blown off the match at SummerSlam, and it wouldn't have had as much of the importance or as much of the excitement and build as it does now. With Triple H taking over, he added a couple more layers to this feud, and now it even feels that much more exciting and important heading into the pay-per-view tomorrow. And I think these two guys are going to tear the castle down, no pun intended. There's going to be a clash at the castle between Rollins and Riddle. And I think these two are going to have a phenomenal match. And I actually think Matt Riddle is going to come out in the end for the victory, because Seth Rollins doesn't need it. Matt Riddle's been floundering a little bit. He's had some losses that he's been dealing with. Obviously, he's been pretty much on the Seth Rollins has been getting the upper hand in this feud. Why not have Matt Riddle come out, especially the fact after what happened this past Monday Night Raw, have Matt Riddle come out and just absolutely tear Rollins apart and beat him in the first match. And I think this feud is going to be continuing after Clash at the Castle, leading into Extreme Rules later on this year, later on this month, into the beginning of October. And now we're going to get to the match that we all have been waiting for. And that, of course, is the WWE Universal Championship match between Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre's home country in the UK of Wales. Obviously, Drew McIntyre being Scottish. In the country of the UK. He's going to get a hometown welcome. And Drew McIntyre has even been teasing his old theme music that he had when he was nicknamed the Chosen One back in the mid to late 2000s, when he was known as the Chosen One, Vince McMahon's project of the guy that he thought was going to be the next big thing. And we all know what happened after that, and obviously the redemption story that's coming back with Drew McIntyre. And he's been teasing his old theme, Broken Dreams, and I would not be shocked if he's going to be playing that at the Clash at the Castle for his entrance music, and the crowd is going to go nuts when they hear that. Roman Reigns is going to be having his 2-year celebration tonight as WWE Universal Champion after he won the belts a couple of years ago at SummerSlam, when he won in a triple threat match against Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman at the time. And he has not dropped the title since. He's been the WWE Universal Champion ever since. I think that's going to change. I think this is going to be the night. Roman Reigns has his over 700-year title reign, 2 years plus as champion. He does not need those titles anymore. Roman Reigns is bulletproof, and it's time to give the titles to somebody else. And I really believe that those titles are going to Drew McIntyre. You want to get Drew McIntyre over as can be? This is your chance right here. Get him over. Give him the titles in his home country, and let the crowd have a great way to send it off. And Drew McIntyre to thank you for all he did during the pandemic era when he was the champion, during that time when there was no fans around, similar to what Jon Moxley did over at AEW. This is Triple H's way, should be, of pretty much saying Drew McIntyre is the guy now in the WWE. Roman Reigns can afford to lose the championships, and he could just go away for a little bit. Drew McIntyre could carry the WWE for the next several months and see how he's going to do. But this is just the only outcome that makes sense. The wild cards, though, are what are going to happen with the Usos? I think Paul Heyman is going to make his return to WWE at Clash at the Castle. And what also is going to happen with Karrion Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux, who have been teasing doing something with Drew McIntyre when they made their debut a couple of weeks ago. When they made their return to WWE a couple of weeks ago, the first person they were attacking was Drew McIntyre. So you have to wonder if Karrion Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux, Doomsday, might be upcoming for Drew McIntyre. Maybe that's a way to keep the title on Roman Reigns. And as well, there's been a lot of rumors that Solo Sikoa in the NXT brand is imminently about to make his debut on the main roster and be called up. Will Solo Sikoa have some type of role at all in what's going to happen in this WWE Universal Title match and help keep the title on Roman Reigns and screw over Drew McIntyre? And then what role is Kevin Owens and potentially Sami Zayn? How is that storyline going to continue out? But overall, I do believe that Drew McIntyre is going to become the new WWE Universal Champion. The question is he going to be holding one title for the foreseeable future, or is he going to be holding both? Because Karrion Kross is going to be waiting in the wings. And I think Karrion Kross, like many of others have said, should be able to build himself up a little bit more. He's going to have his first televised match on the main roster since he was released last year. We're going to have to see how he looks. He's probably going to have a dominant, clean victory, obviously. He's going to have a dominant squash-like victory. We're going to have to see what Karrion Kross's role is going to be. The Usos, Paul Heyman, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, etc. But I think the best thing to do is have Drew McIntyre win this match and become the new WWE Universal Champion. So I'm just going to go over one more time on who the people I'm going to have win in these 6 matchups that are going to be happening at Clash at the Castle tomorrow. And just for a reminder to everybody, it's going to be at 1 p.m., not your standard 7 or 8 p.m. show. Because of the fact it's in Wales in the UK, the show is going to be airing in the United States at 1 p.m. in the afternoon on Peacock. So just in case you guys didn't know that. There's just a little quick reminder just to help you guys out. So you're not waiting until the end of the night, waiting to see when the pay-per-view starts. It's going to be happening at 1 p.m. Saturday on Peacock in Wales for Clash at the Castle. So my winners for each one of these matches, I have the Judgment Days, Finn Balor and Damian Priest, going over Edge and Rey Mysterio, because Dominic Mysterio is going to turn on his father and Edge and join the Judgment Day. I have Damage Control, Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky defeating Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka in a 6-woman matchup. Bayley's going to get the win on Bliss. I have Liv Morgan getting destroyed by Shayna Baszler in a quick match, and I believe Shayna Baszler is going to become the new WWE SmackDown Women's Champion. I have Gunther and Sheamus having an absolute 10 to 15 minute slugfest against one each other, one of the most physical matchups you'll see in WWE TV, and I have Sheamus getting the win in his home country over Gunther and becoming the new Intercontinental Champion. I have Matt Riddle and Seth Rollins having arguably the best match of the entire wrestling weekend, 15 to 20 minute, absolute phenomenal match they're going to have. And I have Matt Riddle coming out on top, defeating Seth Rollins. And then I have Drew McIntyre, who's going to get the hometown welcome, the home country welcome, the big victory against the Tribal Chief. He's going to be the one to finally take down Roman Reigns' 700-day, 2-year plus World Championship reign. And he's going to become the new WWE Universal Champion in Clash at the Castle in the UK in his home country. Coming out to Broken Dreams. So that's just my little WWE Clash at the Castle predictions video that I wanted to give you guys for the upcoming pay-per-view tomorrow at 1 p.m. on Peacock. So if you guys like this video, please hit the like button below. And if you guys like the channel, subscribe to NYG Jeffy T3285, where I'm going to give you more content, more news, videos, updates, and chatter on the WWE, as well as you're going to get videos and updates on the New York Football Giants, the Brooklyn Nets, the New York Mets, as well as some food for thought. Please turn on the bell for notifications on the next video or short that's going to be dropping on the channel for the WWE. And in the comment section below, I would love to hear everybody's predictions on the 6 matches that are going to be happening tomorrow at Clash at the Castle. If you think there's going to be any surprise returns, any surprise debuts, any surprise call-ups, who do you think is going to have the best match of the night? And what are you looking forward to personally out of the 6 matchups on the Clash of the Castle pay-per-view for tomorrow for the WWE, 1 p.m. on Peacock? So everybody have a fantastic rest of your Friday evening. Take it easy, and let's see what the WWE has in store for us on Saturday, 1 p.m. on Peacock, Clash at the Castle.